My name is Alan Epley, and I have been a resident of Eureka Springs for many years, up to a few years ago. And I have enjoyed many visits to the Crescent Hotel and become aware of its history. And I've also read accounts of things that happened in Eureka Springs and at the Crescent Hotel. Um, Among them were two different sources from written by women who had the opportunity to have firsthand knowledge. So I can only think that this story is probably true. I don't know that for a fact. I did not witness it. But what happened supposedly is some of the girls, when it was a girls' college, were entertaining boys on their upper floor of the Crescent Hotel and had figured out how to rig a block and tackle system, raising a basket containing their boyfriends in the basket. The superintendent or principal of the school, whatever his title was, got wind of their plans and that what was happening, and went out an evening and waylaid the boy and got in the basket himself. The girls proceeded to raise the basket until he reached the top of the sill where his forehead was showing, and they figured out that that was not their boyfriend, and they dropped the basket. As to whether or not he suffered any injury, the books were silent. I suspect that he was able to grab the rope to slow the descent on the block and tackle. Uh, I also have no idea as to whether or not there was any punishment administered to the girls. The books were also silent on that. They just told the funny story. The other possibly apocryphal story was the Crescent was at one time the main favorite place for fraternities and sororities to come over for a weekend blowout from the University of Arkansas. And allegedly, a fraternity boy was on the top floor leaning against the banister, the guardrail at the very top on the third floor. And uh, he apparently fell over the back of the banister, went at least 1.5 revolutions before landing in the chair sitting up on the bottom floor, the first floor, and apparently escaped injury. One final story, since I'm talking about fraternities and sororities, is that I had a bailiff named Tim Garrison who served as a was hired by the fraternities or sororities at the time to keep them from getting public intoxication charges. And so he was patrolling at the Inn of the Ozarks on the second floor of the newer annex. And one of the, as he was walking up and down the street, now Mr. Garrison was a very religious man. As he was walking along the sidewalk on the second floor, a young, scantily clad young woman came out and grabbed a hold of him and says, "Oh, Mr. Garrison, you're so handsome. Come into the room with me. Come in, come on in. Let's have a good time." And Mr. Garrison looks at her and says, "Lady, if I went in that room, it'd be like a dog watching television. It'd be very interesting, but I wouldn't have any idea what was going on." So Mr. Garrison told me that story firsthand, so I'm sure that happened.